Hey folks, we're getting some folks coming in. I'm glad that we can do that. Let me get on screen here for a second. Couple things that I wanted to do. It's a crazy day. I've been in meetings all day, so I'm just kind of coming out of the fog, and I wanted to spend some time. Um, so there's no sound, right? Is that what you're telling me? So I bet there's sound now, right? Is that a beer? No, it is a Runa. Let's see here. Runa. Should be a beer after this week for sure. Okay, you're hearing me now, right? Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to go through a couple elements here that I think are important to be able, just as we come to this close. This has just been some of the craziest trading that we've seen for a while. We have to go back to a year ago to remember this, right? When we started to see all this volatility, and we're very close to potentially getting a RTX sell signal on the S&P, and the I'm watching a couple numbers here real close. So let me bring that up so we can take a look at that, and just so you can see this stuff. We'll hang out, watch this close together. Pretty crazy, I guess. The CDC turning the lights back on, so to speak. I um, I don't want to say much about it other than okay, it's great. Go back to life as normal according to the CDC. Have to be very careful on YouTube and what you say about anything. Anyway, so we'll leave it at that. So we'll keep it nice and clean. Uh, Great rally, no doubt. We've seen it rebound from just 2 days ago from 40.29 on the futures up to 41.74. So basically a 150 point rally just out of nowhere. And I talked about that 40.60 level, major support underneath this market. And we actually printed down, like I said, to 29 on the futures. So we did go through that. I think the number was 40 something on SPX. But the number to watch today, and I just want you folks to know, uh, we're as exciting as this feels, this doesn't appear to be the place where a new trend comes from. We're probably going to have, we're not probably, we're going to have to see a couple more days before we'll see this thing turn around. And what's going to be interesting is we run our weekly database to see what type of action we're going to get there. I mentioned in last night's video that I thought we wouldn't see a lot of turnover, so I expect to see some stability. And we're actually seeing a little bit of selling coming in. I think the high on the futures here, high in the futures was 83. We're printing 74 right now. So we're this is the cash. I'm sorry. Let me go to futures. I'm going to go off screen so you can see everything. Yeah. So we're not. It doesn't look like we're going to get an STX sell signal. I'm sorry, RTX, or better yet, RXT. Everybody always tells me I'm always saying RTX. It's because it's STX, so that was a typo that was made so a long time ago. But the pattern is setting up. I talked about this last night that we could move back toward the moving averages in this pattern, 41.58, 41.63, and here we are, 41.70. So we've managed to even get above them. And last night I thought we would see an R2, which was 53, R378, and so we've actually hit dead on with an R3 right now on the futures. You see, as you look at the screen here, this is R3 4178.00, high 4178.25. So by 25 cents. So it's backed off a little bit off of that level. we'll see how this thing all trades out here in the next 12, 14 minutes. Yeah, I like I said, I don't see this as being the turnaround, but it is the stabilization. And I'm going to flip over here to a weekly chart real quick, because this was what I was talking about last week. I'm actually surprised that we were able to get below that 10-week moving average. That was kind of the drop dead number that I had out there. Well, we did. We traded almost down to the 21, which was pretty insane. The PPMs, though, are still, and this is what I'm talking about, the intermediate trends are still solid. They're not rolling over. And I know I made this comment on videos as I went through this week, is that this is not a big rollover. And the fact that we printed down to 4070, of course, I caught a lot of flack because I put the 4400 video out there, but I want to show you on this screen here, these dots up here, intermediates are targeting 4603 minimum. So we've got a lot of upside yet in this market. And if all of a sudden everything gets opened up as fast as they can, that's going to be interesting. One of the things that I want to bring out to the community and for you guys to think about, Europe is still shut down, almost not 100%, but it's really shut down. So as America comes online, we've already seen all the shortages and all the craziness and the inflation. Just wait until we get Europe online and another 330 million people are trying to come back and live every day. So wait till that happens. The demand on this system is going to be huge. Absolutely huge. Not making, there's no way it won't be. And it's just going to put further strains on the supply chains and everything that we've talked about over the last several months. That's going to happen. And it's going to happen very, very quickly whenever Europe starts to open up. Now, there's been, if you look at the vaccine situation here in the U.S., there's hundreds of millions of people vaccine. There's hundreds of millions of people that actually had COVID that survived. And they have more antibodies probably than most of the people, I don't know for sure, but most of the people that have had the vaccine. So there's 2/3 of the country plus that is already has a high level of immunity. I don't know what herd immunity is, but that's what we're seeing here is people are starting to realize, hey, everything's going to open up. So when Europe happens, back to that scenario, when Europe happens, that's going to really trigger demands at another level. So inflation isn't over. We saw crazy numbers. It was amazing that we got the producer prices to come in at 6.2 year over year, up 0.8 on a month-to-month basis, and it didn't trigger the market. What's that about? You would have thought the market should have collapsed. Well, it didn't. It went up, but it had to do with the announcement that basically the economy is opening up. Now, it's my dad was in World War II, and he was in Okinawa when the war finished in World War II, and he said it took them like 6 months before all of the locals and the Japanese and everybody figured out that the war was over. They were still shooting and killing people 6 months after. So this is the same scenario here. It's going to take a while for all the states and everybody here in the U.S. to start to acclimate to exactly what trying to get back to some normalization. So it's going to be crazy. And like I said, the Europe thing seems really big. Yeah, so I always wondered if they were getting sugar water, Christoph, or what they were getting. That's not what's happening here. So, and that's actually the dialogue. I'm not going to even try to monetize video. I don't care about that stuff anyway. There's not a lot of money in YouTube videos unless you're doing millions of views. But the point is that they've got to keep the dialogue somewhere. There's got to be a hotspot on the planet that somebody's dying. That's the bottom line. So they're digging deep. Whatever, I don't even know where that place is you're talking about. It's like a little island. I think everybody on it. I don't know anything about it. So anyway, but yeah. So that's not what we want to talk about here. As far as the markets go, I really think we're going to see. This is. I've got the weekly chart up here. Let me take off these Fibonacci numbers real quick here. We got about 8 minutes to go, so I want to focus in on at the end of the day here in just a second. So let's get rid of the price objectives. One of the things that's happened, we saw that spike, as I mentioned a minute ago, down below the 10-period moving average, and we're back into the market grid, the extreme market grid for this week on Monday when I did my first video, when these numbers are calculated every Friday after the close. The extreme was 41.46. And I remember talking about this, and I thought maybe we could see an S1, 42.06, 41.86. Well, we know the rest is what we spiked big time. And all this emotions that were flowing into markets were huge. But now, not only have we rebounded back above the 10-week moving average, we're back into the grid. Like I said, right now the last trade is 41.77. That would be just above S3. If this was Monday, we'd be talking about, well, maybe it could get down to S3. Well, we've rebounded back to close to the worst that was predicted for this week. So I don't see this like if anything's possible, because if, like I said, if you get this Europe to come back online, you get all these things to happen, then you could see just an absolute stampede and the markets just continue. So we live in a time where we don't know when, what's next from that standpoint. So, so let's, yeah, Carl, that's interesting. You really can't, can you? I sometimes when I do these live streams and stuff like that, I wish we could all just talk. Like I guess you could. It would get ugly because we'd get somebody to do something stupid, but it would be fun. I'd love to hear you guys talk to me, to be honest with you. Yeah, it's tough, Mike Jennings. I get that, because it is tough, especially if you're an individual investor. I talk about our database a lot every night, right? And the database clicked into this total neutral phase. It didn't go into, hey, the end of the world phase, because our intermediate models are still 74% long. So 7 out of 10 stocks, we'll round it out, is still long on an intermediate level. And I've talked about this, is that there's probably 100 days left in this pattern. I'm just trying to look at the clock. Got about 5 minutes to go. We'll focus in on the close here in a minute. But so most trends in the market are still up, like 12,000 of them of our database. And our database actually consists of individual stocks. It's probably about 6,800. The rest is mutual funds, ETFs, that kind of stuff is all included in this number. So there's about 12,000. 12,000. I'm going to light up another screen here real quick. We're going to focus on the close. I don't want to get too distracted here. Yeah, it's funny. Doge is starting to move pretty good here. I'll bring that over on screen. This is a 1 hour chart. It's starting to move. PPMs are starting to get a little toppy here on Doge. So 50, 56, what did we get up to here? Yeah, 59 printed. So I think there's going to be resistance on the Doge between 61 and about 66, and that'd be pretty much close to a full retracement of the sell-off because we dropped about 50% off the highs. So yeah, so yes, Freedom Songs. Yeah, that's pretty funny. I think Elon lost a lot of credibility recently. There's no doubt. So let's go over and let's take a look at the level two, wrong chart, and let's just look at how this thing's going to go out here. We printed up to 72. We'll go through the STX numbers and stuff like that, and yeah, let's see if there's anything else here. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Okay, let's focus in. 2.5 minutes to go. Looks like they're trying to get a little bit of a bid into the market. We'll see how this thing plays out. This is what I talk a lot about. Dragon Head. I'm going to go off screen so we get the full screen on this. PPM1 is actually cutting through first, second derivative, so starting to look a little weaker. This is a 1 minute graph we're looking at. These lines in here, someday I'll have to spend some time and talk about it. They're linear regressions, and they're called the WaveTech webs. And I'm trying to get those so it's an indicator on TradingView. This week has been a huge distraction for me, so I've just not been able to make any headway and stuff. So we're getting a little selling coming in here. We've got a minute and a half to go. Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Carl. All right, so here we are, final minute. Kind of stabilizing here around 41.70. I'll look at the cash once we close out here and take a look and see what kind of, we get any RTX or RXT sell signals. So as I always talk to you folks about, on a close like this, you want to watch after a big up day, see if there's a lot of selling coming in. See what kind of conviction. It's the final minute, which is done. We're done here. And then we also have the couple minutes after to see if there's any, what happens next, and see if there's further liquidation or whether they come back in, and see what kind of stability, see who really wants to stay in for the weekend. That's what you find out, especially on a Friday. Yeah, so I love, my favorite thing. Okay, we're closed here. Let me go back on just as we watch this. But my favorite thing is low volume, whatever, because volume does not. I went through a couple rants. Volume has nothing to do with price movement. Zero. In fact, low volume is good because it means it's sustainable. If you look at the really high volume spikes, you'll see those are usually climactic periods. I always joke there needs to be volume, but it doesn't need to be high or low. It really doesn't matter. It's the aggressiveness of the buyer and seller that moves the market, not how much they're buying or selling. And if there is a lot being bought or sold, they're also very aggressive. So those are easy to find out. But we definitely got touch selling here. I think 60, what was the low here on this bar? Let me look at this real quick. Yeah, and just to kind of tie that up, I do think we're actually at a point where we're going to enter into probably a sideways zone. I'll break down a couple of things and we'll call it quits because I don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to come up and hang out. So we got a few hundred of us hanging out, so that's pretty cool. Um, yeah, so we're into the second minute now. A little buying back to 72, high 78. Let's take a look at a couple things here. And so just looking at the futures for a moment here, we did get above back into the grid as I mentioned earlier. The low end of the grid this week was 41.46, so we managed to close at 73. So we closed between S2 and S3 level. And just to bring the perspective, on Monday when we came in and I did my first video, that was the extreme expected was 41.46. Well, it went to 40.29 in all of the euphoria that happened around the CPI and the end of the world was here and inflation was going, and inflation is still going to be a factor. But I keep telling you folks that I believe that the market's going to be the inflation hedge. And we had a good day on the metals today. Gold did really well. The dollar got its ass kicked today. Gold up 19.1, 1843 on gold. Excellent. I talked about gold last night. I think it is just following the script as far as I can see. Sometimes I get into these modes with some of these markets, and gold's one of them, is where you're just writing the script every day and by the week. And I still think there is a major move well over 1900 coming not too long from now in gold. Yeah, I haven't watched Carl. I haven't watched Tim Pool for a while. Boy, what a turnaround that guy is! Interesting guy for sure. Um, yeah, BS. They're talking 4,300. Still am, dude. I'm talking 4,600. So, make sure you don't forget that. I still think we're in Japan 1984. So yeah. Oh no, I said 4,300. Help! Oh no. Oh my gosh, you guys need to get a life. But the bottom line is, yeah. So I actually said 4,400. Okay, there's anyway. So and that's still in play. It's just that the calculation of how that got in there has been negated, and I talked about that the other day. So everything I'm doing is running off patterns, running off Fibonacci, running off the quant stuff that I do, and I just report what it's telling me, okay? And it tells me more about being right than anything else, and so let's take a look at something here real quick. Yeah, so the S&P futures on a weekly basis has been long since 35.36 on 11/20 in November. You may recall this is the intermediate signals. We started buying originally in our database back in June, July last year on an intermediate. We're still in there. We recycled in late October, November, and December. That's where this next cycle, as I've been telling you, we're probably going to run in through the summer, no dog days, and we'll continue to go on. It's very hard to stay out of, and very easy to get caught up into the emotions that we saw this week with the numbers. So appreciate it. Seeking Buddha, thank you. I think that's awesome, man. Yeah, so it's not about, listen, what I do every day, and we got out of the thumbnail business a couple of days ago. I want you people to watch the content, not look at the thumbnail names and tell me I'm wrong. So what I want you to do is actually listen to what I'm saying. I do daily commentary, which tells you what the expectations are for tomorrow. So I do have, hang on. I do have a crystal ball, and I try to keep it polished. As I told you before, it doesn't work very good. So, but yeah, so yeah, I talked quite a bit about Bitcoin on Wednesday. It really hasn't changed much. There's some major support around 40, 49. Let's bring it up real quick. I'll do a couple of things. What time's it getting to be? Yeah, I got about 10 more minutes, and I got to cut out of here. But it's always great hanging out with everybody. Yeah, I used to play with the crystal ball quite a bit. So this camera follows me around. So let me put it back. Before it rolls off, I don't know if breaking a crystal ball is bad luck, but it could be. Yeah, Chris Costello, thanks a lot, man. Um, Listen, I do a lot of work for our institutional clients and you guys. This community is awesome. I love this stuff. I show up every day and do videos. Who does that, right? Uh, uh, thanks, Super Donkey. You always throw some bucks at me. I appreciate that, man. Um, yeah, so I'm going to be. I've got just a few more minutes to go here. So what I want to do is let me zoom out just a touch here. Yeah, what I want to do is actually look at the STX numbers, anything that got triggered. So we did not get a STX buy signal on the weekly. This is futures. We did manage to close, we're still trading the futures, but we did manage to get above the 10 and 21 day moving averages. I thought that was a long shot last night when I did the video. I thought we could get up to it, but I didn't think we'd get above it. And so as I mentioned earlier, R3 today was 41.78. The high was 41.78.25, and the low was 41.05. That was the same low that happened in last night's session. Yeah, Steve Weiser, you're welcome. Dustin, thank you. Yeah, I would have been on sooner. I've just been really tied up today, so appreciate it, everything, man. Um, just trying to, yeah, so let's take a look at the SPX real quick, just to look at a couple of those numbers. So SPX 4170, this is, I used to have an old client of mine, and this has been my history for like 40 years, right? This probably goes back into early 80s. He always wanted to know how I pick these numbers that are so close. He goes, was that it? 10 cents? Is that enough? Oh, it's right at it or just below it. Does that mean that something happened? But so we look at the numbers for today. 4174.15 was the RXT number, and the high was 41.83, so we were above it. We closed 41.73.85, so we are 40 cents below it. So his comment would be, well, is that it? Did we have to be above it, or is that close enough? And that's always the tough call. One of the things that on the PPMs here, just going off screen for a minute, what we're going to see is the PPM 1 turned up. It's still negative. I really don't think this is just a screamer, but we'll find out. One of the things that I do every weekend is once the markets close, I step back. I try not to look at anything until Sunday, and then when I come in on Sunday, I work full day Sunday, probably from noon 12 to 12 Sunday is probably my work day. So let's go through a couple things because I know it's on everybody's mind. Let's take a look at Tesla real quick. I'm sure our good friend Kathy Wood is feeling better a little bit today. Her ARC fund was up 5%. But anyway, Tesla's climbed back above its 200-day. I believe Apple did the same thing. We'll take a look at it. But these stocks are in downtrends. They're not, we may set up a bottom here, but they're absolute downtrends right now. And so this is the daily. If we look at weekly, I think it becomes even more pronounced. We're under the 40-day moving average. It's interesting that 2-3 weeks ago, we had a major cycle high signaled on Tesla. It's under pressure yet. PPMs aren't super negative. Oh, they are. So the major resistance will be at the 10,675. That's a long ways from where we are right now, and we'll have to look at that. But this is not a good stock, and you're going to need this. Let's flip over to Apple, and then I'm gonna finish then. And I've got a call coming in. I'm going to have to get off and take here in just a minute. So we're gonna wrap it up right there. But Apple did the same thing, got back over the 40 week moving average. If we go over the daily, it's climbed back above its couple of days ago, but it's back over the 200. But none of these stocks are like major bottoms signaling a new buy or anything like that. So there are a lot of crystal ball followers in Sedona. In fact, that crystal ball came from Sedona. So that's about a 40-minute drive from where I'm sitting right now. So anyway, thanks everybody for showing up. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend. You'll see me on Sunday night. We try to get these things out around 11:30 or Pacific time. So that's just kind of a mark. It's a good mark for the channel, and we've got a lot of European watchers and stuff. So that just works out for them. I always have it out before the next opening. So yeah, that's funny. Jason, you must be hanging out with my bear with me 1 second here. Bear with me, folks, just 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. I had to text this guy back, let him know. I'll call him in a minute. But yeah, so the lumber gold ratio, that's Michael Gayed. I know he talks about that. I know Michael. Don't really have any feelings. I don't think gold and lumber, he'd probably debate it. Maybe he'd win the debate, have anything to do with each other, especially in the current environment that we're in. So maybe in 2015 when he wrote his paper, there was some there. I don't know. I haven't read his paper, but I don't think there's any. I don't know. I don't know why I would look at gold versus lumber, but there's something there. Maybe. Yeah. So anyway, let's see here. Yeah, I don't. I guess I probably could bring up IOTA, the crypto on Coinbase, not on Coinbase, but on TV on TradingView. Yeah, so let's just. I'm going to finish off right here. Let's take a look at this. This is the Russell spread. I'm still not convinced that the Russell is going to come back in play here. What I talked about on live stream the other day is that what I see is this thing getting back up a little bit more. But as far as having that full on, like what we saw from last October on, where the small caps are leading, I don't think we're back into that rotation yet. I think there's probably a couple months. That may be at the end of the summer before you'll see that. I think they'll remain stable. The spread to me looks like it wants to come back in again, meaning it wants to decline, where that would suggest NASDAQ will outperform a bit. Today, days like today, you get some overperformance. We'll see how it all plays out. And I watch the spread very closely, and I'll bring it up on a nightly video if something like that happens. Yeah, yeah, Steve. Yeah, yeah. There's 8 million jobs available. I don't know what kind of jobs, but there's a lot of jobs out there. If they do start opening hospitality and all that stuff, I've got friends that are, where do you vacation? Well, there's always a vacation place, but right now you go to Florida. So I have a very close friend in Florida right now all week. He's having a great time. He's like, it's normal here. So a lot of people are going there. So anyway, folks, like I said, I'm going to sign off. Have a great weekend. I've got to make a call, and appreciate everything that you guys do following me, even my favorite trolls out there. There's a few of them. That's okay. I like I've said before, I think that sometimes you need some critical things coming at you to think about what you're saying. So I actually appreciate it. Like I said, always, you can say pretty much anything to me. Don't call me a crook. Don't start. There was some guy on last week saying I should be in jail because I said 4,400. I mean, stuff like, no, I can't handle it. So it's our community, and keep it clean, and have a wonderful weekend. I hope you guys get out and do something. According to CDC, you don't have to wear a mask. So anyway, have a great weekend. We'll talk to you on Sunday night.